What's going on YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. And in this video I'm going to be doing my USFL post week 8 power rankings. And things are really heating up. We're coming towards the end of the regular season and seasons are on the line. So without further ado, let's begin. Coming in at number 8, I have the Pittsburgh Maulers, who lost. They are now 2-6. That was pretty much a knockout blow in my opinion, this loss to the Gamblers for the Maulers, and it was a really weird game. They controlled time of possession by a lot. They had the ball for almost 40 minutes of the game, and they still lost the game. And what's really crazy is they scored on every single, if you look at the final score, you say, oh, they lost 20-19, the offense must have really struggled. They scored on every single offensive possession except the final one, not including a 30-second sequence before the half when they kneeled the ball out. So they technically possessed the ball 7 times. They scored 5 out of the 7 times, and one of the times they didn't score was when they were just kneeling the ball out to go to halftime. It's crazy. The time of possession for each drive was long as heck for both teams, but mainly for the Maulers, and the fact that they were not able to come out on top was wild, and they led throughout most of the game. It was a very strange one, and it was definitely a heartbreaking knockout blow, kind of a loss for this team. Like, they played a perfect game, yet they lost there. They're pretty much done at this point. Coming in at number 7, I have the New Jersey Generals, who are now 2-6. They are also now in a very tough situation where I think they're pretty much done. Sure, they're only 1 game back from the Panthers, but there's only 2 to go, and I just think they couldn't get they just really couldn't generate anything, and there's no reason to believe this team can churn it around at this point now that they have lost 5 in a row. Coming in at number 6, I have the Michigan Panthers, who are now 3-5. The Panthers almost had an epic comeback against the Breakers. They were down 21-0. Final score ended up being 24-20. Just not great play on either side of the ball early on in the game. They kind of brought it together in the late second quarter and throughout most of the second half, but it just was not enough to pull off the comeback. They put themselves in too much of a hole, but as of right now, they are in the playoffs if the season would end today, and I think, pretty much all they really need to do is just win one of their last 2 games, and they should be in. Even then, they may not have to. Coming in at number 5, I have the Philadelphia Stars, who are now 4-4. They lost in a heartbreaking one to the Stallions. It was the rematch of the championship game from last year. They really wanted to win that, and it was just a big game for them. And but they are now 4-4. They are still first place in the Northern Division, and they're pretty much in. I think they would need to lose their last 2, and for a lot of other teams to get some big wins for them to not make it in. But they definitely got some figuring out to do, because they have struggled against a lot of these South Division teams. Coming in at number 4, I have the New Orleans Breakers, who were able to get the win over the Michigan Panthers. They're now 5-3, but they are in a dire situation despite being 5-3 because of how loaded the Southern Division is. They're going to need to keep winning, and they got some big time matchups coming up against the Showboats and the Gamblers, and if they win those 2 games, they are in. But they have to win those 2 games, or at least win one of them, and they will have a stronger chance of getting in. But the Breakers, they are in a must-win situation right now, but it was a much-needed win, and they got it over the Michigan Panthers. Coming in at number 3, I have the Houston Gamblers, who, as I mentioned earlier, were able to steal one there from the Maulers. They just found a way to win that one. They are a tough team to beat. They have a great running game. Mark Thompson has emerged as a far second place for MVP, but he's leading the league in touchdowns, and he didn't even play the first couple of weeks. And if he would have played the first couple of weeks, he may have actually had over 20 touchdowns this year, which would have been insane. And he still has a long shot at it. I think right now he's at 13 or 14 touchdowns, but yeah, I mean, he would need to have a monster last two games, which is never out of the question with Mark Thompson. But their defense, even though it really couldn't just the defense really couldn't get off the field on third and downs, and the Marlers really owned the clock in this game, so that's not good from the defense's part. But I will say, when push came to shove there at the end, they were able to hold out, so that was good for them. Coming in at number two, I have the Memphis Showboats, who have now won 5 in a row. The Showboats at 5-3, they're looking as good as anybody, really. Cole Kelly, it's just really interesting because he just seems like one of those guys who elevates the people around him. It's not really so much his play that is riding this team forward, even though he is playing pretty solid. But it's more so his leadership, and it just seems like when he's in the huddle, players around him step up more, and that's just something that you can't really teach. But the Showboats, their defense continued to play very well against the Generals, and they're playing really good football. They had a turnover or two, but overall they're playing very efficient, and that's what you need right now in this league, to stay efficient and not beat yourself. And then coming in at number one, I have the Birmingham Stallions, who are now 6-2. They're obviously, they're the team to beat. Magoo is the clear-cut MVP front runner. Mark Thompson, I think, is the only guy threatening him, and he's a far second place. Magoo had a heck of a game. He threw for over 300 yards, 3 touchdown passes, no interceptions, had that game-winning drive at the end of the game. Magoo is really propelling this team forward, and it's just pretty impressive stuff that they're doing. I mean, the only way this team loses in the playoffs is Magoo just does not have a great game. Magoo gets slowed down, because I do feel they are very dependent on him. But I mean, no one has really shown that they've been able to stop him completely yet. Even in the 2 losses, they weren't really where the offense got shut down. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And they will be getting some more guys. They're going to get more healthy when Scooby Wright returns. Bo Scarborough, if he comes back, that's only going to help this run game even more, and they won't have to depend on Magoo as much in the run game. But yeah, Stallions are number one. So yeah, 2 weeks left in the regular season. Things are heating up here in the USFL 2023 season, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this all plays out. Comment down below, though, what you guys think about all this. And other than that, I'll see you guys next time.